Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield and the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, December 10, 2013, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, December 6, 2013, did cause to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, the Town Clerk of Westfield, the Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Dana, could we have a roll call?
Rich Mezek.
Here.
Lucy Biegler.
Here.
Ann Carey. Here. Mark Friedman.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Roseanne Kerstead.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Here.
Gretchen Olig. Mitch Slater.
All right. Lucy, could you lead us in the flag salute?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Announcements. Brendan, anything down your end?
Yes. Congratulations to Alex Jackman, who received a proclamation from the Union County Freeholders in recognition for her effort related to autism awareness. As you may recall, Alex presented a clip from her video to us at a recent Board of Education meeting. Tonight, Alex will be presented with the ARC of New Jersey Youth in Action Award. It is a new award that the ARC of New Jersey created specifically for Alex based on her communication efforts related to helping people with special needs.
So this first one is from athletics. USA Today announced this afternoon that the Westfield Plainfield football rivalry, which has been in existence for more than 100 years, won the best high school football rivalry contest in the region. The two local teams received 42,013 votes to beat out their closest competitor by over 6,000 votes. Westfield was victorious over Plainfield this Thanksgiving with a score of 34-0. To read more about the final round of this contest, which begins December 11th, please check the district website. And this one is about the inclement weather today. Due to weather conditions, the following concert changes have been announced. The December 10th Roosevelt Intermediate School concert has been rescheduled to Tuesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. The Edison Intermediate concert, originally scheduled for December 10th, will be held Wednesday, December 11th at 7:45 p.m. So I guess that's tomorrow. The Northside Elementary Strings concert, originally scheduled at Edison Intermediate School for December 11th, has been moved to Roosevelt Intermediate School, same date, same time, December 11th at 7 p.m. Just a reminder, a complete list of Westfield Public School concerts is posted at www.westfieldnjk12.org. And remember, there is a special invitation for senior citizens to attend the Wednesday, December 18th final rehearsal of the Westfield High School Winter Concert at 11:45 a.m. Holiday and classical selections will be performed by the Westfield High School choral groups and symphony orchestra. There is no admission fee for those events.
This is from Fine Arts. Congratulations to 6 Westfield High School students for being selected following a challenging audition process into the All-State musical groups. In the All-State Mixed Chorus, Christine Haug, Julian Moan, and Kim Roth. And in the All-State Women's Chorus, Catherine Coe and Melanie Schneider. And in the All-State Orchestra, for percussion, Alex DeFabio. Congratulations to all.
Okay, a total of 162 Westfield High School students earned AP Scholar Awards in recognition of their college-level achievement through advanced placement courses and exams. These students averaged 4.33 on their AP test, with a score being the absolute highest on a scale of 1 to 5 scale. 6 students qualified for the prestigious National AP Scholar Award, which is granted to students in the United States who receive an average score of at least 4 on all AP exams taken and scores of 4 or higher on 8 or more of these exams. The Westfield High School seniors receiving the National AP Scholar Award include Matthew Gates, Edmund Hand, Jeffrey Coe, Adam Lupicki, Michaela Nyes, and Benjamin Schwartz. For more information on the awards of all 162 students, please visit the district's website. Congratulations.
More from the high school on high school student achievement. 8 Westfield High School students have achieved perfect scores in recent standardized tests widely used for college admission criteria. They include Shay Fitzpatrick and Lily Wang for SAT Writing, Rachel Fan and Sean Wu, SAT Math, David Bruskin, SAT Reading, Fraser Weist, SAT Math 2, and Andrew Zale, SAT Writing, and Nicole DeVitt, ACT, English, Math, Reading, and Science. These test scores are accepted by major colleges and universities and provide evidence of student readiness for the academic rigors that lie ahead. Congratulations to all these students.
Technology. Franklin, Tamaulipas, and Wilson Elementary Schools are joining a massive campaign kicked off during Computer Science Education Week, December 9th through the 15th, to encourage students to participate in the Hour of Code. Code.org is launching the celebration, which is geared to promote interest in the field of technology and help nurture creativity and problem-solving skills. Hour of Code workshops, planned by our schools both during and after school this week or next, will enable students to complete their hour of basic training by writing a computer program. The students are meant to create and not just consume software technology. To continue the learning, Franklin School will launch an after-school code club for 5th graders in January that aims to further demystify computer science and show students that coding can be fun, collaborative, and creative.
And we are already preparing for the next school year. So kindergarten registration is going to be held beginning January 8th for all children who are residents of Westfield who will be reaching the age of 5 on or before October 1st, 2014. And the kindergarten registration will be held at Lincoln School, 728 Westfield Avenue. We also have first grade registration. Now this is for all children who are residents of Westfield and who will be reaching the age of 6 on or before October 1st, 2014, and if they have not yet attended Westfield Public Schools. Appointments for kindergarten and first grade registration must be made in advance. More information, including phone numbers of schools and required forms, are posted on the district website. Additionally, a letter is being sent to all parents of younger students so that they can both have the dates and the information. And we also encourage them, even if they don't have children coming into kindergarten or first grade, if they can share that with neighbors or friends who may have young children, so that we have a good count of registration and can plan appropriately for the next school year.
Thank you. The next Board of Education meeting will be held on January 7th, 2014. That will be our organizational meeting at which Brendan Galligan, Ginny Lights, and Mitch Slater will be sworn in as returning board members. Other organizational matters will also be discussed and approved so that we can continue our work into 2014 as a board. In addition, the Westfield Public Schools will be closed for winter break from December 21st, 2013 through January 1, 2014. We, of course, wish everyone a happy holiday season and a healthy new year. And with that, I will recognize the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, we'll move to the superintendent reports.
And yes, for the first superintendent report, we actually have the audit that was completed for our last year's finances, and I will turn to Dana Sullivan to introduce that report.
Sure, thank you. As you know, every year we are required to have a independent auditor audit all of our finances for the district. That includes all of the student activity accounts as well as all of the district accounts. So this year we had the firm of Hudulip & Morrison, and they were here for 3 to 4 weeks doing an extensive review of all of our records, and everything is in good shape, and Bob Morrison is actually here to present some information about the audit.
This is a view that I am not accustomed to. The first thing I want to point out, since we have some new board members, the first objective of the audit is for us to make a determination that the financial statements of the district are fairly presented, meaning materially accurate, that the appropriate accounting principles were followed in the preparation of those financial statements, and that the accounting principles were applied consistently from year to year. That's the basic premise of a financial statement audit. We perform a variety of tests and procedures to form our opinion, and when we're done, we issue the report that appears on pages 14 through 16 of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Those of you that are continuing board members will note, if you can get through that report, that it looks a little different than prior years. The reporting standards were changed in an attempt to clarify specifically the roles of management in the preparation of the financial statements versus the roles of the auditor in testing and determining the fairness of those financial statements. At any rate, our opinion on the financial statements is unmodified, meaning that after we were done all of our work, our tests, our procedures, we formed the opinion that, in fact, the financial statements are fairly presented, they are materially accurate, that the appropriate accounting principles were followed in their preparation, and those principles were applied consistently from year to year. In addition to that basic objective, because the district receives a significant amount of state and federal dollars, we also have to expand the scope of our audit to perform what's known in the jargon as a single audit. Essentially, we have to evaluate internal controls within the district on an entity-wide basis and test for compliance with the variety of laws and regulations that the district must operate within. Then we have to select major grant programs, which are either large dollar volume grants or grants with tricky compliance requirements, and test those individual grants for controls over compliance and actual compliance. We issue 2 additional reports on those, which show up in the case section of the audit, starting on page 143. If you thought the opinion on the financial statements was tough sledding, these next 2 are harder to read, and I seriously think they are the cure for insomnia. But the key to it is, what are we saying in those reports? What we're saying in the reports is that we tested compliance, we found no reportable non-compliances. We evaluated internal controls, we tested internal controls to make sure that the controls that were supposed to be in place and working were in fact in place and working. We found no deficiencies in internal control. At the individual grant level, we found that the grants were being operated in compliance with all of the state and federal requirements. So 3 reports, 3 unmodified opinions, batting 1,000. So that was all very good. As far as the financial statements themselves go, there's 3 different sets of numbers in this document reflecting different ways to calculate your operating results and fund balance. The schedule that's most important to you is Exhibit C1, which is outside of the main financial statements, but that is the schedule that follows state budgetary guidelines. That is the one that determines what your unassigned free balance is. That's the basis for the 2% calculation by law, and that is the statement that mirrors your board secretary's report. And in fact, the only difference between that schedule, based on our audit, and the board secretary's report that you all got for June 30th, is that we're required to add some in-kind state aid amounts. The state pays into the teacher's pension and annuity fund for the cost of pensions for all of your certified staff. The state of New Jersey pays for post-employment health benefits for all of your staff, and the state is picking up the tab for the employer share of Social Security costs for your certificated staff. Those numbers become available long after the board secretary has closed out the books for the year. We add them in the audit, and those are essentially the only differences between what you saw on June 30th in the board secretary's report and the audited financial statements. That's, I won't say it's unusual, but it's a compliment to the diligence and expertise of the business office staff that we did not have any audit adjustments that were required to be put through. The benefit of that for the board is that as you're starting to build the 14-15 school budget, the data you're getting for year-to-date 13-14 expenditures and revenues is reliable, because it's been proven to be accurate based on our audits. So that should give you some comfort as you're building your next budget cycle. As far as the auditor's management report, this small one is based on a multitude of specific compliance requirements that we test based upon State Department of Education guidelines. Essentially, the bottom line is we have no recommendations that require the district to take corrective actions this year. During the course of the engagement, we worked closely with management, and in the one instance where we saw something we weren't sure we were pleased with, management jumped in and made revisions to the way the business was conducted. This is at the student activity accounts, and essentially, rather than correcting procedures at one school, they standardized the procedures district-wide, which will make accounting and reporting for student activity accounts easier and better, and hopefully institutionalize the process going forward. So we look at that as a very positive outcome from the audit. And essentially, that's the basic report. I will point out that we had an extensive and wide-ranging meeting with the Finance Committee, and we went over all of the audit process and findings in great depth. So if I seem to be a little, I don't know, short-winded for a change, it's basically because we reviewed it in depth. If any member of the board has any questions concerning the audit process, should feel free to contact me. Questions regarding the financial statements themselves should obviously go to the board secretary, since we didn't have any adjustments to the financial statements. And unless there are any questions.
I'll just reiterate the point about the Finance Committee. We did spend probably 2+ hours going through every page of, probably about 200 pages.
Yes, sir.
And that was very helpful to be able to ask you detailed questions, tie things together, look at trends, and not just the numbers, but some of the qualitative things that flow through the report. So that was very helpful.
Jen?
And so what are you going to tell us about those trends that you found? Those of us who weren't at your meeting?
Well, I think the good news is that there were no, I would say there were no real red flags that should cause us concern. So, for example, you mentioned we talked about pension and benefits, but we also talked about other things like a footnote on, for example, workers' compensation. Should we be concerned about? Unemployment. Should we be concerned about trends in unemployment rates and the payments we make, because we can't control that? There was nothing along those lines, I didn't think, that we should raise to the board level to say, hey, this could be a big unexpected next year. I don't know if any of the other members of the committee, or Dana or Peg, if you remember anything that came up. I don't. I feel like we were able to walk through everything. And you'll see in the thicker document that you got, what we'll refer to as MD&A, I think, management discussion and analysis of the financials, and they talk about a few of those things.
And one of the things that I always make a point of discussing with finance committees when we meet is the regulatory environment that you must operate in, right? With the 2% hard cap on the amount of free balance that you're allowed to set aside, the district has to do everything in its power to provide flexibility going forward. If you look at that Exhibit C1 and the breakdown of the fund balance, you'll see the district has put away close to $5 million for tax relief over the next 2 years, which is a positive thing. You've put away another $2 million plus in maintenance and capital reserves, which can either be used to fund the non-state aid portion of future capital projects, or take maintenance projects out of the tax levy. So in addition to your 2%, you've done all the positive things that you can to minimize the tax consequences going forward and keep your budget within flexibility parameters that you may need. And we spent a lot of time talking about that.
So all those documents that we talked about on the workshop on November 19th with the capital reserve and maintenance reserve, all of those numbers are reflected in the audit. That's managing the fund balance is basically what we've done.
Yep, in the corporate world, managing your retained earnings is a bad thing. In the school district world, it's a very good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And I would add that, once again, my staff always gets the complete cooperation of the district staff, and we do appreciate the helpfulness of your staff because it makes the audit process go a lot easier. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we do have a second report. Among all of our children in the district, all of our students in the district, we have some students who have been identified as having some specific needs. And Dr. Michael Weissman is our Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel Services, and he's going to give an overview of our special services programs in the district.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, tonight I'm going to be talking about special education services in our district. I didn't want this presentation to be all about facts and figures and statistics and programs. I'll get to all that later on in the presentation, but I wanted to convey to all of you the impact that our staff in particular and our programs have on all our students throughout the district, and how very important it is what we provide for our students with special needs. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of inspiration to share a little bit about the human side of special education services in the form of a story that I came across on the internet. Eric Duquette was the salutatorian of his graduating class. Not only is Eric an honor student and fluent in Spanish, he also has autism. When he was 5 years old, he still couldn't speak. His parents were told by experts that he would probably end up in an institution. However, Eric's parents did not give up hope. They decided to take matters into their own hands by doing research into various intervention options for Eric. Teaching Eric to communicate was their main focus. As we all know, communication is the window to leading a productive and independent life. In addition to speech therapy, Eric's mom taught him sign language and how to use cards with symbols to communicate when he was hungry or wanted to go outside. As time progressed, Eric's therapy with his mother turned into 8-hour days, where he had to learn 10 new words each day. Fast forward to the bright 18-year-old delivering his graduation speech as Smithfield High School class salutatorian for 2010. Eric had the second highest grade point average in his class and placed 93rd in the country on the Spanish 5 exam. Once a 5-year-old who couldn't speak has turned into another example of inspiration for all children who suffer from the inability to communicate. Please take a moment to watch this heartwarming video of this wonderful young man who was given the gift of communication to prove to the world that people with disabilities should not be defined by their limitations, but by their abilities.
Finally tonight, there have been a lot of famous graduation speakers this year, but one young man in Smithfield, Rhode Island made us stop and listen to every word. You won't know his name. You will know the name of the challenge that makes him tend to look down. And by the way, he didn't say a word until he was 5 years old. Tonight, you'll also know his American heart.
There it is. Thank you.
Out of all the students, Eric Duquette may have once been the least likely to speak on graduation day.
It is with great humility and pride that I stand before you as your salutatorian. I started my academic career being diagnosed with a serious learning disability, autism. My parents were told that my prognosis was poor and that I would probably end up in an institution. They thought differently. Today I stand before you accepted into every institution of higher learning that I applied to. So I guess in a way the experts are right about the institution thing. Eric Douglas Duquette.
Eric is on his way to college, majoring in biology. By the way, he's fluent in Spanish, too. Every day, his parents focused on just 10 words for up to 8 hours a day, even teaching him sign language as a supplement.
I want to thank all of my wonderful classmates who went out of their way to always make me feel wanted. All of my wonderful teachers, you made me want to come to school each day. I hope I made you all proud. I want to thank my mother and father for teaching me that in life it is all about the choices we all make. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for the choices you made, believing in me and not giving up. I truly love you.
And from the child who learned emotions with the determination that some of us learn calculus,
Never underestimate the power of a smile. Not allow yourself or others to be defined by your limitations, but rather abilities. Never underestimate yourself. Congratulations, class of 2010. Enjoy tonight, for it will soon just be a memory. Thank you.
and happy graduation, Eric, and thank you.
Thank you for watching that. A heartwarming story that I think depicts why we're so passionate and about what we do for our students with special needs and what we do as a district for all our students. So now for the facts and figures. This is for 2014 data. This is based on October 15 count data that is collected by the state every year. We currently have 1,165 students eligible for special education and related services. 91 of our students are in out-of-district placements. That's 8%. The state guideline for districts in terms of out-of-district placements is the state requirement, or the state goal is 8%. So we're exactly where we should be for out-of-district placements. Our classification rate, excluding students for speech-only services, because we do have students who are eligible only for speech-related services. They're called ESLS, or eligible for speech-language services only. The rate is 16.6%. The state average is 15.79% as of October 15, 2012. If we include our ESLS students, that brings our percentage up to 18.5%. The next slide, I have a chart that depicts historical data over 4 years from 2010 to 2013. You'll see that our classification rate and our out-of-district placement rate has remained very stable over the past 4 years. And if I go back 5-6 years, it's pretty similar, but I only showed 4 years. I just wanted to give you an overview. We follow the Special Education Administrative Code in terms of our continuum of services that we provide for special education students. And the guidelines that we abide by is the least restrictive environment. So once a student is found eligible for special education services, the first task that we have is to make sure that we provide an educational program to that student with accommodations and modifications within the least restrictive environment. Some people have heard the acronym LRE. And the goal is to educate students with general education students as much as is humanly possible to the degree that a student will benefit from that program. So at the least restrictive level, number one, we have general education programs with support, and we have those types of programs at all our schools. So general education support is also commonly referred to as in-class support or in-class replacement. This is where a student is provided with their program, their special education program, within a general education setting with either the support of a special education teacher, a paraprofessional, accommodations and modifications through the student's IEP that may be implemented by a general education teacher, but the services are predominantly taking place within a general education setting. And at the next level of support, we have our resource room programs, which we have at all levels. Resource room support is a pull-out program. At the elementary level, Students are provided with whatever academic program they need, whether it's reading, language arts, or math, and it's within a smaller setting. At the elementary level, we can go up to 8 students by law. At the secondary level, it's to 12 students with a paraprofessional. But that is a smaller setting where the student is provided with supports and small group instruction, and oftentimes the curriculum is modified. But we're paralleling the general education as much as possible. But there is much more intensive remediation in that type of pull-out program. And as we go up the pyramid, we have our specialized resource programs, which I'll talk a little bit more about our district's specialized resource programs. They're not self-contained programs, but they are pull-out support programs where students are provided with instruction by a special education teacher for whatever academic periods they need support. We have our special classes. Again, I'll talk more about that at each level in each building throughout the district. Our special classes are known as self-contained programs or specialized programs, and they're for students. The group sizes are between 12 and 16 in a class, although we hover around 12 to 14 students in a class. And those are our LLD programs, which is called the Language Learning Disabilities class, our Leaps and Bounds programs, which are programs for students with autism. And those are for students who need the structure of a smaller setting with one teacher throughout the day, so there's not a tremendous amount of transitions. It helps to keep students organized, and then you get, again, much more intensive remediation as you go up that pyramid. And then the most restrictive setting is those separate private schools, which I talked about, where we have like 91 students in out-of-district placements. And then the most restrictive is obviously a residential, where we have very few students. The next slide. Our primary programs for ages 3 to 7. At Lincoln School, we have integrated preschool programs. We have integrated preschool programs, which are half-day programs. The majority of the class is comprised of general education students, and then there are students with special needs infused into the program. We also have half-day and full-day preschool disabled programs. Excuse me. Depending on the individual needs of students, some students only need a half-day program, some students require a full day. And then we have our Leaps and Bounds programs, which are our full-day programs for students with autism, and I will get into more specific details about that. And we have our Transitional Kindergarten program, which is an LLD, which I talked about, a Learning Language Disabilities class. It's a full-day program for students in kindergarten. Our elementary programs, grades 1 to 5, we have 5 LLD classes. 4 are a very traditional language-based LLD class for students with mild, thank you, sorry, I'm just fighting off a cold. Students with mild to moderate difficulties, and we have 2 classes at McKinley and 2 classes at Tamaulipas. And this year we started a new LLD class. It's categorized as a severe, but it's really for students with behavioral and emotional-based needs. And they're provided with support through a clinical model with a contracted agency that provides daily individual and group counseling and behavioral support to students who need that level of intervention in a self-contained class. And that's in our Wilson Elementary School. We have our 2 Leaps and Bounds classes at the elementary level, full-day autism programs, which I'll talk about on the next slide in more detail. Okay, our Leaps and Bounds program. I'm extremely proud of this program. We have really expanded it over the past couple of years. We've had a tremendous amount of success. This is a specialized program. It's a model of what's called Applied Behavioral Analysis, or ABA, and it's a full-day program which is designed to meet the needs of students with autism. It has a research base. It's extremely data-driven. It has intensive related services. It's supported by a behaviorist who has specialized training in the needs of students with autism. And due to the nature of this disability, requires ongoing monitoring and supervision and knowledge of and a strong research base in terms of best practices with autism. This is an extremely litigious area for those of you who are familiar with autism and autism programming, and we've really attempted to stay ahead of the curve as a district to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our learners with autism. We've expanded our curriculum, and we've really worked hard to make sure that we stay current and provide a lot of professional development to the teachers, the paraprofessionals, and we've done a lot of outreach in our Leaps and Bounds program with the parents in terms of going into the home and working closely with them to monitor their needs and make sure that there's continuity and follow-through. So it's an extremely comprehensive program. There's a very low student-to-teacher ratio in this program. The state guidelines for a program with autism is 3-to-1, but we're closer to 2-to-1. Many of our students have 1-to-1, especially if they have a 1-to-1 paraprofessional throughout the day. That's necessary for some students, but some of our students who don't require 1-to-1 with a paraprofessional get the 1-to-1 instruction as part of the program. It's called intensive teaching. So extremely proud of that program. We've had great success, and we've been able to maintain a tremendous number of students in our district program, despite the high-quality programs that exist outside of the district. And not a lot of districts have been able to maintain students the way we have, so we're extremely proud of that.
And that goes through 5th grade?
That goes through 5th grade, correct. Our intermediate programs, grades 6 to 8. At Edison, we have our iPrep program, which has been around for a long time. This is a specialized resource program for students who require more structure, again, less transitions, as I discussed on one of the earlier slides, and an individualized academic instruction. This is a departmentalized program. It's not self-contained. Students are not with the same teacher. They get the benefit of transitioning to some degree, but they also benefit from having just a few teachers who know them really well, understand their needs, and have special education teachers who are trained in modifying curriculum and understanding different learning styles. We have a new reading program as part of this called Read 180. This is an intensive research-based program. It's put out by Scholastic. It takes advantage of technology. Students are assessed regularly, so there's regular progress monitoring that takes place in terms of knowing exactly what reading level the students are at. And the assessments are frequent, at least weekly, in terms of gauging what their progress is like and tweaking what they need in terms of providing them with supplemental instruction and support. So this has been a very successful program so far. We're seeing a nice boost in terms of our reading lexile, our reading scores, and we're going to be continuing to monitor that. And what's really nice about it, again, is that technology piece. It really keeps the students engaged and challenges them at their individual level. So they have the benefit of doing guided reading, individual reading on the computer, and also doing some they also get individual reading time on their own. So they cycle through the program, and we're seeing some nice success with that. Our iBridge program is our new program at Roosevelt. This is not a self-contained program. It's a specialized program for students with social, emotional needs and support. We have 2 full-time contracted licensed counselors through an agency that provide individual, group, and they work with families to support students throughout the day. These students also receive academic support throughout the day, and their academics are at the academic level where they're capable of functioning well. So if you have a student who is on grade level for math or in a gen ed math class, and they just get this emotional counseling and support that they need throughout the day to help them get through the day if they're having difficulties. And it's been very successful to date. We've been able to maintain all the students that started the program in September. So we're monitoring that, but we're very pleased with the progress the students have made in this program. Okay, at our high school, grades 9 to 12, we have our PrEP program, which has been around for a long time as well. It's a specialized resource program with modified academics for students with cognitive, academic, and social needs. And we have our Bridge program, which is a specialized resource program with a focus on modified curricula, counseling, and behavioral supports.
Are kids in the Bridge program classified?
Yes, this is not to be confused with our Project 79, which is our alternative high school program. Now, I think it's important to understand that in many other districts, these types of programs would be self-contained classes. Our model is a specialized resource program, so there is not one teacher teaching these students. It's departmentalized resource programs where there's multiple teachers teaching different academic classes to these groups of students. And the benefit of that, again, is more transitions and opportunities to work with different teachers, but different students, and to be not just within one program all day long. So it is considered a less restrictive environment. Moving forward, some of our identified needs. I talked a little bit about our Bridge program over at Roosevelt, and in working closely with the child study teams and families and looking at trends, we are starting to think that our high school would benefit from additional clinical counseling support, much like the model that we initiated at Roosevelt this year. We think that it can decrease and help to contain our out-of-district placements, and also serve as a support for students that are inclusion resource, potentially as students in our Bridge program and our iPrep program. So this would service a variety of populations. And in speaking with other directors throughout the state, this is a trend that we're all beginning to notice, that this is where we're seeing an increase in terms of population and students going to private programs, or students with emotional, behavioral needs, psychiatric disturbances. It's just a general trend that we're noticing in the past few years. Some of our projected needs and challenges. Our autism program, only because the evolving nature of autism and autism research, it's an area that you really need to stay on top of research-wise and be familiar with the literature. Again, a litigious area, and rightfully so. So just making sure we need to stay on top of that and continue to meet the learning needs of our autistic population. That's something that we certainly do, and continue to do a lot of professional development and stay abreast of changes in the area.
Does that mean expand the program past 5th grade?
That's something that we've looked into. That is a huge undertaking because of the life skills and transition services that are required. That would, I believe, be probably more like a 2-year project. The other issue is space. That's my primary concern with that. It's something that Ms. Lowe and I have talked about in the past, and we've looked at. There are a number of problems that we would need to address first in terms of doing an appropriate intermediate school program for students with autism.
So what happens now when they enter 6th grade? Most of them are
So
placed?
many of our students do transition to the middle school successfully and stay in district, and some are requiring more intensive placements where there's more of a life skills transitional program where it's much more functionally based programs where they're learning job skills, activities of daily living, I'm sorry. Many of the programs have full kitchens, full apartments. They're learning to do laundry, they're learning to make bed, they're learning to clean, they're learning to brush their teeth, they're learning to do things. And you need space and equipment, and it's a very involved program. The private placements do a very nice job with that. That's something that we would have to discuss and look into.
So how many kids do we have in the Leaps and Bounds program currently?
In leaps and across the district? That's a tough one.
Well, we have 2 classes, right?
Right, I don't know the numbers offhand. Well, about a dozen?
We have 9.
Oh, 9, okay.
9.
Yes, and then at Lincoln, we also have, right. At Lincoln, we have 17.
Right, that's it. It's not a huge number of students that would require that type of program, so we have to figure out, does it make sense to create a program for 1 or 2 kids each year? It's a challenge. So, and again, we're always looking at ways to maintain our students within our district and increase our capacity in all our programs. One of the newer challenges that we're anticipating is because of the increased rigor and Common Core standards, continuing to help special education students meet the requirements in terms of performance on standardized testing and to modify our curriculum to keep up with the state standards. So that's, as more and more about the Common Core is coming out, and it's interesting, I'm seeing a lot of professional development now for people like myself in terms of Common Core and how to meet the federal and state expectations. So it's interesting now that it's starting to come out. Would have liked to see it a year ago, but we'll certainly try to make sure that we keep up with that as well.
Are we able to find the professional staff that we need on a regular basis, teachers and other staff?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're able to find and recruit, I think, very high-quality staff. We've been very, very lucky.
Just real quickly, so the additional support at the high school level for the counseling, you would help decrease the out of district? Is that kind of what it's saying?
I don't have a crystal ball. It's hard to say, will it decrease? I think it will help to contain it, because what I'm seeing is an increase in terms of, in this area.
So that's the first area in trying to help maintain it.
Yeah, exactly. It could potentially decrease it over time, but again, and I think we'd be it'll help us to stay a little bit ahead of the curve.
Would that be that same program you had described at your last presentation, that clinical?
Yes.
It would just move up?
Yes, correct, exactly. Those same services, but at the high school. And we do, and we have a group of students at 8th grade at Roosevelt who are going through the program now successfully, who will continue to need these supports as 9th graders at the high school, so it makes sense that the services would need to move up with them.
Are we seeing any more of a population that we can hire for that kind of service rather than going for contracted support?
I've thought about that, and I've discussed it with many of my colleagues who are also implementing this type of program in their districts. And most of the districts who have utilized these services have either maintained those services over the past 2 years, or they've increased them. And most districts have increased these services once they've seen how effective they are in their schools. One of the challenges of hiring this type of staff yourself and not contracting it out is the supervisory piece. That's one of the biggest challenges, because you're hiring licensed counselors. And it's a level of therapy that most school districts are not prepared to provide supervision for. You would need a licensed clinical social worker within the district to provide supervision, or a licensed psychologist who does therapy regularly and understands some of the challenges that these counselors are dealing with on a daily basis and struggling with students. Because it is necessary. They cannot work in isolation. They do need somebody to supervise and monitor them very carefully, if not a couple of times a week, at least minimally weekly, and it is extremely costly and time consuming.
Yeah. I think you told us that the last time.
They're also provided with ongoing training in regards to crisis and suicide and warning signs, and they follow different protocols, and they have a very comprehensive program in place, and I think there's a benefit to contracting these services out at this point.
Are you seeing any trends, not necessarily in the programs, but in the diagnoses or in the kids who are coming into the district with special needs? Are the diagnoses changing? Are the needs changing?
We're seeing a wide range. We're seeing everything from students with Asperger's who are struggling emotionally and behaviorally, all the way to students with an increased number of students with depression and anxiety, bipolar disorder. We're seeing a wide range of psychiatric diagnoses. It's hard to say there's one in particular, but we're just seeing an influx of students struggling in general with life and coping. And with all the challenges that schools are faced with in terms of meeting academic expectations, it's just I think that plays a part to an extent. So families are under a lot of stress, I think, more now, and there's just a lot more on people's plates. So we're seeing more kids struggle for sure. And we're trying to provide them with the right coping mechanisms and strategies and supports. And we're also seeing a lot of school refusal, unlike we've never seen before. So that's something that they work with also. They'll go in as a team and they'll help to bring students out of their homes when they're isolating themselves and withdrawing. And parents are unfortunately having to get physical with their students. Nobody wants that. They need somebody to help them with these strategies and understand the nature of what's going on and work students through that. So that's been tremendously helpful.
So you're not seeing necessarily an increase in reading disabilities or auditory processing, or it's really more the social, emotional, or psychiatric?
No, I think our numbers in terms of our other areas of classification, our SLD, our OHI, or autism, I think those are generally have been relatively stable. But we are seeing more students with emotional disabilities. And that, I believe, is throughout the state.
There's been new laws, I think, in Trenton about dyslexia.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what the district is doing in response to the recognition now of dyslexia as a reading disability and the new I guess, requirements for staff and for services.
Right. Well, the new law is that the state has passed is that districts are required to provide 2 hours a year of professional development for speech therapists, LDTCs, which are learning disabilities teachers, teaching consultants, child study team members, all our special education teachers, and all our general education teachers, pre-K through 3rd grade, I believe. The state is also, New Jersey Department of Education is required to provide training. So because it's a new law, I'm sure that they have something in the works, but we're waiting for them to give us some guidance. We are researching different options in terms of providing that professional development. We have a few different options on the table right now. We are curious to see what the state puts out, and I think a lot of districts are waiting to see what specific type of training or content they want the district to provide to the identified staff. So I have a feeling we'll most likely provide our own professional development, but the state was required to put something out. So we're waiting on that. We won't wait too much longer, but by February or March, we will have provided that training.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No?
All right. I then ask the board to approve the minutes of the board workshop held on November 19, 2013, the board meeting on November 26, 2013, and the private minutes of November 19, 2013, and November 26, 2013. Can I have a second?
Second.
Lucy, thank you. Any comments or questions?
I'm going to abstain from the 26th.
All right. Both. Yes. Okay. Anything else?
I will abstain on the 26th as well.
All right. All those in favor?
I will abstain
Any-
from the 26th.
Any opposed? 3 abstentions from the 26th. Anyone else? All right. Personnel, Mark.
I'd like the board to consider personnel items numbers 1 through 19, and then 20 through 23, which was at your desk as an addendum. Have a second?
Second.
Gretchen, thank you. Any questions?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg?
Yes.
Anything else, Mark?
No, sir.
All right. We'll then go to facilities. And Dana, is there anything to report on the status of grants?
Yes, we've received quite a number of applications back from the state. The total projected cost that we received grant for at this point is about 16 million, so the state share would be about 6 million. I still think that there's some yet to come, because some of the ones that we haven't received the notifications on look like projects that I think the state will fund. So we're waiting to get more information on that, but we think there's still more coming. So
Okay.
we're still analyzing the ones that we did get, and we'll have recommendations for the board on which ones we think we should proceed with.
Will you know
first.
enough if we have a facilities committee meeting next week to talk?
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
we
sure
could talk
when-
offline, but
Yeah.
that would be a goal. Anything else for facilities? I didn't have anything.
No.
Have they denied any?
They haven't denied any yet, but I think some of the ones that we haven't received the letters on, I think are denied. But I don't think all of them, because,
Sort of
like I
like when
said,
you
some of
apply
them
for a job and
are
you-
strange, that look like ones that they would fund. So I think we're still just waiting.
Send to an agent.
Thank you.
New building.
All right, long-range planning, Ginny?
Yes, for the committee members, Dr. Dolan will present some information to us in our Friday packet, and then we'll decide whether we want to respond with additional questions prior to having a meeting Monday, the 16th, or wait until January when more data will be collected.
All right, thank you. Policies, Gretchen?
Yes, I would like to ask for the board to consider policy motion number 1, approving of a number of policies for second reading. Can I have a second?
Second.
Anne, or whoever. So we went through these ad nauseum a couple of meetings ago. I don't have any to draw attention to. I'm happy to talk about ones other than 2330, which is the homework policy. There were some additional, we can talk about that, and then if people have other ones they want to talk about, we can turn to those. So Roseanne had made some additional comments, which I apologize, I was just too crazy this week to try and get them to you at the table tonight, but if everyone can find it, including myself. We had talked about when we met last time on page 3 of 4, number 5, trying to work with it to change the language to more accurately reflect our conversation about homework and vacations. And so I had taken a stab at it, but then Roseanne took another stab, which I think is probably better, so if I'll just read it to you. She proposes that number 5 on page 3 of 4 would read, "To the degree reasonably possible, no new assignments should be given over major religious holidays or observances and school vacations. If work over breaks is necessary, teachers should plan and announce assignments well in advance so that pupils can adjust their schedules appropriately. However, it is expected that homework over week-long breaks be an exception, not the norm."
I like that. What about, we had also talked about, like, at nights of concerts and things like that.
Well, that was in a different point.
It was?
Yeah, I think that
That was number 4, where the number, frequency, and degree of difficulty of homework assignment, no, not, wait. No, not number 4. It was, 4 on the policy, and page 1 of 4, B1 on the regs. this, and it was, you changed this one too, right?
Yeah,
And I was fine with the change, that's why I didn't, but she changed it to the number, frequency, and degree of difficulty of homework assignments should be based on a number of factors, including, but not limited to, after-school activities, which are the concerts and stuff, that make a legitimate claim on students' time, as well as, to the extent possible, the ability and needs of individual pupils. No?
I don't agree with that. Because it's still being done, so I don't know why it just can't be that on concert nights or, plays or things like that, those teachers should just respect the fact that those students have to be there that night and no homework should be given.
Oh, I don't remember us having that conversation.
yeah, I don't remember us having that
Definitely.
conversation either. I mean, I know that we talked about extracurricular activities or in-school curricular activities that they should be sensitive to it. I don't know that the implementation of a policy like that works. I'm just thinking about my kids both have concerts coming up this week, and I'm sure that their classmates may or may not be involved in those concerts, and so, but they may have a concert 2 nights later. So I feel like we're effectively blocking teachers from extended periods of time being able to give homework, maybe even, an entire week, because they have concerts every night that involves different members of the 8th grade or the 5th grade, or, I don't know. What do y'all think?
Maybe at the high school level, but I think at the middle school level, especially where there's teams, they can somewhat coordinate that a little bit so there's less extensive amount of homework on a concert night. Because there's been significant amount of homework on a concert night. And I just don't understand that if you know that it is a 7th grade concert or a 6th grade concert or an 8th grade concert that night. Is it that necessary to have to give homework that night, or can't you coordinate with that team A or team B and discuss who is giving homework so it's not being given in every subject? That's my only concern. So I think that statement there is fine, but it's a little vague and doesn't lend itself to really, implementing that a little bit stricter.
Judy?
I don't think it's my role or the board's role to make specific determinations of what events represent activity where homework shouldn't be assigned. I think that we set a policy that says that, I actually liked your statement, whoever rewrote it, number 4, consideration has to be given.
That's 2 different things.
No, she's talking about the first part that I read.
I thought I'm talking about the number, frequency, and degree of difficulty
Right.
should be based on factors, which I think is an appropriate policy statement that gives us the focus that tells teachers to consider all the factors involved in their assignments.
And you're including concerts in after-school activities, is what I think I hear you say.
If a concert or an after-school activity, I'm not going to, I would not want to dictate that every time a particular activity is going to occur, that homework wouldn't be assigned. I think that part of what we ask students to do is manage their time, and part of that is study, preparation for study and preparation for homework, and part of it is helping teachers understand that students have a lot of activities that they're doing.
I'm only referring to school activities such as concerts, not sports, not after-school activities, gymnastics, dance. I'm talking about if there is a recognized band or chorus concert that night or a school play. I just really feel that teachers should be cognizant of it and not assign homework. I don't understand the purpose in it. They're engaging in an extracurricular activity, and we should be encouraging that and not stressing them out and discouraging them from participating in chorus or band or something else because they can't get to their homework those nights of the concerts.
Sorry. Were you done?
No, I wasn't.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
How do you differentiate between a sporting event that's an away event that could take up conceivably as much time? I just don't know how to balance
Well,
that.
I meant like a sporting event that maybe it's not, involved, specifically with our school. I didn't know if you meant gymnastics. She said all activities. I didn't mean all activities. I just meant that if it's something that can be controlled, maybe every away game isn't possible, but if it is something that is representing our school, or at least limit it, to have homework in every subject during the night of a concert, I think is a little unreasonable.
I totally agree with you, but it's been my experience with my kids, and that's all I can base it on, that the teachers do not give the homework on the concert nights. So, and I agree with you. I mean, if there's a concert and it's at night, they shouldn't have homework in every subject. But it's my understanding that the teams do talk about that and take that into consideration, and it has been my experience with my kids.
And because I think you can never promise something is not going to happen, I think it's a little hard to do. I think the way the policy is written now, I mean, that certainly an after-school activity that makes a legitimate claim on students' time, I think that would include a concert. And if that were brought to the teachers, the administration, either by a parent or a student, that certainly a school concert makes a legitimate claim on a student's time. It's an activity, and it makes a claim. It's a legitimate claim on students' time. So I think it fits under the wording as is.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think it's being adhered to or being considered.
And so-
in all teachers. I'm not saying that there aren't some that are, and I really appreciate those that do that. But I don't think that's always, in the back of their mind. I don't know if it's done, I don't think it's done purposely, but I don't think it's something that is brought to their attention or raised to their awareness that, maybe an unwritten rule, hey, it's a concert tonight, we're not getting homework tonight. Let's move the test to the next day, or these math problems to the next day. I'm not saying, as a teacher, I understand you don't dictate what we're doing, but I'm just saying you can be a little more respectful, mindful of that. I mean, we just talked about stress on kids, and it doesn't help when their anxiety level has risen to get to a concert, and then they're sitting home freaking out, having to do homework. And their parents might not be home until they're walking in the door to get to the concert. So that's all I'm saying.
And I mean, my sense is that none of us disagree with you. It's my belief that our role as initially the policy committee and then the full board is to set policy, and then but it's not our role to implement it. And if we have such specific policies, I think I just don't think we're doing our job, and I think we're tying the hands and making it almost impossible to implement a policy if we're that specific. So I'm hoping that we've made ourselves clear.
But agreed, but that policy really is ineffective, because it really is not. If it's not enforced, or if we can't enforce it, then what's the point of even writing it?
Well,
that's what I don't understand.
Well, it is enforceable. We don't implement it, but you have now brought it up in the board table. I don't know if you brought it up to the teacher or to the administration, and I don't know if other teachers are, but it's brought up now, and I would hope, and we'll follow up, I guess, of if this policy is approved, number one, it will have to be given to the staff, and they will have to review it, and it needs to be disseminated in some way. And if there is some suspect that some individual teachers are not adhering to the policy, then I would think that is the principal or the immediate supervisor's responsibility to address it.
You're absolutely right. Once the policy is approved by the board, which it hasn't been yet, but once it is approved, then it would be reviewed at the school level with teachers so that they are aware of it. And then yes, it's true, as would be the case with any policy, really. So if there is a concern regarding it, then again, the teacher can be asked, is this following the policy? It can be brought to the teacher, it can be brought to the administration to make sure the policies are being followed.
And that's fine. I just want it to be made aware of.
Yeah.
That, it's should be, uniform across the district.
Should be common practice.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and then this may really sound simplistic, I don't mean it to, but, we constantly have new staff. It's a moving target. And so we constantly have to inform staff and make sure that they understand what expectations are. And that's really one of the reasons why we have policy. You know, if we had the same 20 teachers and they stayed with us all the time, they'd probably know all the rules. But that's not the fact. So that's why we update policies, we change policies, and then we have to make sure that everyone understands it. And you're right, across the board. So.
I also think that it's important for parents to be aware that there's a homework policy and know what the policy expectations are. So if a child is having homework over winter breaks or long projects, or one teacher is always giving assignments during concerts or plays, then the parent should know that we have a policy that sort of, you know, recommends against that. So I think that's another thing. I don't.
It's also a reason we review the policies on a regular basis, right?
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it is publicized. I believe it's in the calendar.
Well, it's in the calendar, but now we have a new policy, so it's not going to be in the
No, it's not. I'm
now.
not doing a
Right.
calendar this year.
Yeah.
But yes,
Right.
well, and now with,
It will be on the website.
absolutely.
And we might do a shout out that there's a new homework policy, since it's an important
Right.
policy for parents and kids.
I just want
Yeah.
to make it clear, I mean, I know some of you might be thinking, you know, she's a teacher, why is she saying? For me personally, I think a child's self-esteem and self-confidence and security means more than anything. And if they don't have that, their academics aren't going anywhere. And I feel like there's just so much stress put on them that if there's one time they can just enjoy their extracurricular activity for the school, so be it, let it be. And that's all I'm trying to say. There's plenty of other times to give the homework. So I'm not trying to, you know, dictate what teachers can or cannot do. I just wanted to be mindful for these children, that's all.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about that specific thing, or can I finish with Roseanne's comments and then? Or do
I wish you would.
Okay. You wish I would what?
Go back to the original part that you were talking about.
Okay. So I was talking about page 3 of 4, number 5 in the regs. And I had read Roseanne's proposed changes. So what do you think?
I can't see them, so I can't
I know.
evaluate them.
Here.
So I would be very happy not to vote on it. I was actually going to compliment you on the rewritten number 5. I thought it was well stated, and I don't think it needs to be changed. I would ask that the word "new," however, I don't know that it contributes anything.
Sorry,
That's
that's
the
the new
rewritten
wording,
number
if you'd
I
like
know.
to see it.
In writing.
I know.
Okay, well then give it back, if you're not going to look at it.
No, I can look at it, but I'm talking about another point for the moment.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Just instead of calling them new assignments, it should be
All
no
assignments,
assignments.
yes.
Right.
Just giving assignments.
Oh,
In either version, I think I agree. Yeah.
oh, okay.
I'm not sure I agree, Roseanne, with the no assignments. I think that there's, I think it's a matter of discretion and timing of assignment.
Well, if you take out the new,
Right,
well then,
Right.
you don't need the no.
Uh-huh.
right.
Right.
To the degree that possibly assignments should be given over assignments should not be given over major religious holidays or observances and school vacations if work over breaks is necessary.
I don't,
Yeah.
but I don't know that I agree about the fact that assignments shouldn't have been given over long
Okay,
periods of time.
this was put in, oh,
I think there has to be some discretion for grade level and what kind of break it is.
Yeah,
You know, if we have one of the unusually long 12-day winter breaks, is no homework really?
is that the best learning tool? Is that
Right.
the best instructional support that students should have?
this
mean,
comment, this comment was put in by the high school about the no new homework in the original, the first,
I'm not sure
Maybe
why
what will
the
be-
statement doesn't stand by itself the way it was written at the top of page 3 of 4, number 5. It says that it calls for consideration, special consideration and understanding of assignment.
but that was not what we discussed. That is not what it started as, and that was not what we discussed.
It's what I like.
This is what it started as. To the degree reasonably possible, teachers should plan and announce homework assignments, especially long-term assignments, well in advance, so that pupils can adjust their schedules appropriately. New assignments should not be given over major religious holidays, school vacation, and long weekends, and due immediately upon return. And that language was straight from the high school. And that last sentence, the spirit of that last sentence, I believe, was taken out of the revised that is in the second reading.
And I don't mind the fact that it was taken out.
Because right, having been the one who rewrote it, my understanding from the full board conversation last time was that I thought that that's what we agreed on, that was that was what was confusing it, when we were all in agreement that homework shouldn't be given over major religious holidays, but the teacher should have the discretion to give it with an advance notice. I thought that was the conversation that we had at the table, which is why
I thought the conversation we had at the table was, well, if it's not due Monday, could it be due Tuesday? Does that count as immediately? And if it's not due Tuesday, if immediately counts as Tuesday, what about Wednesday? And I think some people said that, oh, well, then it can't be due the week after vacation. And then Rich looked at the calendar and said, well, that means that there are 20 weeks in the calendar
Right.
where kids can't do homework. So
Right.
then we went back to, okay, so maybe we keep it at immediately, and we talked about it, and then that's when I think you said, I'm going to take a stab at it.
well, I did, and it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to have worked. So
I would be very cautious. I would warn the board not to be so prescriptive about specific details of instructional interaction. We hire teachers as professionals to use their best judgment for using homework as a learning tool. I think that the description in number 5 is an appropriate description that says use good judgment and special consideration for holidays or time when school is not in session that may involve family activity, and give appropriate lead time to accommodate the instructional outcome. What more could we say?
Well, this sentence, new assignments should not be given over major holidays, school vacations, and long weekends, and be due immediately upon return, was not presented from the board. It was given to the policy, it might have been SIP first, and then the policy committee, I don't remember, from the high school.
I don't necessarily
So-
agree with it.
But then you're saying, you're not agreeing with the educators who were hired, who were not supposed to tell how to do their job.
Well, I don't know who it is that you're saying from the high school.
Well, when we give it to the high school, it goes to Peter at least. Well, I don't know, we could ask Paul who the high school is. When we say, when you give the policies to the high school,
There was a committee, I mean, this, you know.
Paul Panera, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, is coming up to help explain that.
So back in November 2011, when you hired me, homework was front and center. And at that point, the high school had a committee together that was, I believe, in some regards, first connected with the Balance Committee over concerns of overwhelming students based on some of the messages from Race to the Top. So that's just the sort of the tone and the overview of where the high school comments came from. And so, again, that was some time ago. That committee of people that the principal had put together would have examined the policy and made their
no, it
recommendations.
never went to the balance committee.
Oh, I didn't,
The policy
I
never
didn't
went
mean
to
to
the
suggest the policy did. I meant that the balance committee was part of the high school, and there was a collection of concerns there that were then reflected when another committee looking at the policy got involved.
No, who are we getting the language from at the high school?
Am I allowed to talk? I can clear that all up, or not?
Not yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I know the.
Well, that's my understanding of it. I wasn't here when that committee came. It just, if I could make a couple of general comments based on that. So I think, all the sentiments that have gone around the table are very legitimate and important, But I'm going to go ahead and editorialize. We cannot make a document that satisfies each and every individual family in the community. It can't happen. Every single student has a different level of comfort with different subjects and different classes and different styles of doing different types of homework. What we can do is, and I think the language in here is real close. I think that we can put out language that says it's not appropriate to monopolize a long-term vacation for a family. But if you give the assignment, and I've seen this in a number of policies outside of our district, but if you give the assignment with advance notice, people can plan accordingly. I would also say this, and for the record, today I met, in fact, with a teacher who was trying to incorporate the new Edline, which is our new website program, calendar. So they have a group calendar for grade 7 so that they can check the school calendar and make sure that the whole team can assign homework accordingly. That was the exact, and I didn't go there for that purpose. I went there to learn about how to do group calendars, to be honest. And so those conversations happen. But, you know, thousands of students, hundreds of teachers. It's important for people to communicate, and it's important for a parent to go ahead and reach out to the teacher and say, you know, my student is struggling with this. Maybe it's a strategy that there's a strategy that could help that particular student with that particular type of homework. But overall, we just need to keep communicating. I mean, the homework issue in every district seems to be similar. A lot of people care about those students who are overwhelmed, and we want to create policies to protect them. But, you know, one student's stress is another student's rigor, and we can't take that away. So we absolutely have to, and, you know, the policy will hold us, accountable. So when there's an issue, it goes right up the chain. Teacher, as you know, principal, supervisor, my office. And that's our job, and the policy should hold us accountable for that. But it's something that requires ongoing communication. So I'll stop there, but
We're trying to take it away. I think we're just saying any new assignments should be given.
I like that.
Like you just said,
Yes.
that's what we did agree to. So
So how does this not say that?
It does. I didn't disagree with that. That is what I never said no assignments over break. Just if there's going to be any new, there should be enough notice beforehand so they can get it done before they go away. That's all. That I remember us agreeing to that.
All right.
So Roseanne, what in the current 5 that's on the table?
The current 5 says nothing about, I don't know what special consideration means.
Well, I don't know what immediately means.
Right,
I mean,
okay, yes,
so-
and that's why immediately is not in the one that I rewrote.
So you want it to be definitive. To the degree reasonably possible, no new assignment should be given, period.
Well, now, maybe we take out the no new and it's just assignments.
Should be given for religious holidays. Well, we have to work with
Yeah.
that. Okay, here's my suggestion. Just so we're not here for hours wordsmithing, why don't we table homework? And I will, Roseanne and I will have a conversation and try and get something that we agree on and then circulate it for additional comments before the next board meeting.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get this done with, because I know that there was some additional back and forth today about number 1 under evaluation of homework on page 3 of 4.
That I think we should bring up.
Okay. So the additional issue that Roseanne raised was that for the sentence, assignment should be discussed, checked, and when appropriate, corrected and returned to students, she would like to add, prior to the due date of the next assignment, whereby feedback from the first assignment would help students in completing the next assignment to the best of their ability.
It's a little clunky, I totally.
How about in a timely fashion?
Well, I like in a timely fashion, but a timely fashion to one might not be a timely fashion into another, and if I don't receive feedback on an essay, and I have a new essay due, how am I learning from the first essay that I did to incorporate what I need to do better for the next assessment? So timely manner might be 2 weeks for a teacher, but I have another essay in a week. So I haven't gotten the feedback from that essay, or lab report, or, I don't know, whatever.
I think we could do a slightly better job in
Writing.
tightening it up.
Yes, absolutely. But I thought
I
we
agree with your
could
concept.
talk about the
Yeah,
concept.
absolutely.
I agree with the concept. I don't know that
Don't
it could
like
be
the language.
exact because it may not be practical. for
Daily math
teachers.
homework, for
Well,
instance.
I was thinking about that, so, which is why maybe we definitely rework the wording. But daily math homework, it might be homework handed in. Is daily homework, math homework handed in? Sometimes not. I mean, I don't know, and you can't, I agree, account for every sort of homework assignment. But I really think that in the regs, there needs to be a statement that it is expected that feedback is provided to students about their work before they are required to not re-implement, but to use those skills again before they've received the feedback.
Well, that's your sentence. The expectation is, and we'll come up with some language.
Okay.
All right, so the policy committee is going to take this back.
Yeah, we're gonna take it back, but
Okay.
yes. And hopefully we'll get this done next go round.
Could I just, I'm sorry to prolong this, but also for number 2, what is there any rule or unwritten rule with the new portal now with parents not knowing if their children are failing or not doing well? Because there has been some concern that their children have not been doing well, and the response was, well, it's on the portal. So what is, like, I'm not quite sure is there a letter that still goes home, or is there an expected phone call from a teacher to still call a student at the middle school, high school level? I think it probably still happens at elementary level.
So
just because the parents are so.
Well, in the
about this in the
policy, it
committee.
says teachers have the responsibility to communicate with parents of students who are falling behind in completing homework assignments. So I guess your question is, does Genesis count as communicating to parents?
Right, or if they're failing the subject or doing not well in the subject. Is that the is that considered the communication?
So my memory is, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, but in mid-semester, the parents get a notification that there is the mid
Right, so they still go out.
the
Interim
interim
reports, yeah.
report are now available on Genesis. So there is, and everything is available on Genesis, but the parents are notified of that so that they know to check that. And parents, meanwhile, can be checking constantly, but they can get that interim report in the end of it to find out how the students are doing. So I think it's certainly having everything online has changed it. There's no doubt about it.
So maybe we just need to somehow communicate to parents that those interim reports do pop up. I mean, maybe some
You
new
get-
parents.
we do.
We
We
do
do.
get an email, reminder.
You get a lot of
For the
emails.
interns.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
I think we get an email that it's coming.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we
yes.
get an email that
Right.
it's there.
Yes.
It will be coming at 4:00 this afternoon.
No, it's like a
First
4
you get
o'clock in
that.
like 3 days, and then
Right.
it will be coming 4 o'clock this afternoon, and then you get
I remember the 4.
But is the point of number 2 to say that an interim report is coming, or is it meant to say Johnny stopped doing his homework and he's going to fail this next test, or he's going to fail the marking period, either before or after the interims go out?
I think that's kind of more my point.
So
Yeah.
should it
Thank
say
you.
that the teacher has a responsibility to communicate verbally or in writing, in email, somehow effectively
They're not
communicating?
doing well before
No,
that
it says
comes out, yeah.
teachers have the responsibility to communicate with parents.
In whatever way.
That's what it says.
Oh, yeah.
That's our expectation.
Right.
If it's not being implemented, then it needs to work its way up the chain. But, I mean, do we really want to communicate with verbally or where appropriate by email? I mean, we're going to drive ourselves crazy.
No, I was just curious what the ruling was on that. The ruling.
Can I have a hammer? Can I make a rule? No. All right, so we will work on those two. Just an interesting side note. We were at a PTC meeting earlier this week, a PTC president's meeting, and someone, I don't know that it was really a complaint, but it was a comment that if you want to get to genesis to the parent portal by going through the website. You have to click on parents, and then you have to go down, you have to click again, then you have to click and you have to sign in. And they wanted it to be like a fast and easy link, and somebody else raised the point, you know, there was a day when we just had to wait for the mail and got it, not in the far long, you know, what am I trying to say?
Not too long
Thank you.
ago.
Not the too far distant past, but we had to wait. And now it's like, if it's not instantaneous, if it takes that extra 5 seconds, you know, I mean, we're really quite blessed with the amount of information that's accessible to us at any given point. Or cursed. True. So, are there any other comments on any of the other policies that are up for second reading tonight? Yes, Ginny. All right, so we're tabling 2330. Which ones?
Evaluation of teachers, was it reviewed by WEA leadership?
My understanding is that it was.
Yes. Yes, it was brought to the, yes, absolutely, it was brought to the District Evaluation Committee.
And the evaluation of administrators, was that reviewed by the administrative supervisors?
By the administrators on the District Evaluation Committee, yes.
Perfect. And high school graduation. I have a feeling this was written as a basis by Strauss Esme. Yes?
Yes.
It has a high degree of the use of the term, the districts shall establish.
Yes.
I'm not thrilled with that. We don't generally say that in our policies. We either ascribe a responsibility to a superintendent or another party. If it is, it is, but it's kind of jumped out at me. Just saying. Yeah.
Anything else?
No. Otherwise, I appreciate all the work you did to revise
Yes.
the items.
We all did. We're all still
Well,
here.
whoever did it, I appreciate it.
No.
Oh, you have
Sorry.
something else?
Before we vote, don't we want to open it up to the public?
We're not voting on homework.
Oh, okay.
We will do that after we vote.
Okay, so we're voting with...
We are voting, you've
So
withdrawn
you
homework.
like
We're withdrawing
district?
homework.
And you're happy with this
We
one?
can hear from the public, I guess, after we vote on all the other policies, with the exception of homework.
Wait, I'm sorry. So are we keeping the district of
I
what
don't
you
know.
just said?
I
or
had
just-
no comment on it. You don't care?
It's not that I don't care, I just don't, I mean, I don't think I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it will change the intent and the meaning to represent the district shall with the superintendent shall. I mean,
Well, it doesn't ascribe any responsibility, which is concerning, but
But generally, that would be me.
it would be you.
it all comes
Darn
back
right.
to
Buck stops there. As long as we see eye to eye.
That's right, it's clear, all right.
Yeah.
It's on record.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm done.
Rich Matesic.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yeah.
Gretchen Oley.
Yes. Do you want to do two? Do you want to do public comment? When do you want to?
We could go to public comment on homework. I know there was one member of the audience who wanted to comment briefly.
Thank you.
Please.
Do I need to go up there?
Please do, just state your name and address for the record.
My name's Lori Wogue. I live at 738 Boulevard in Westfield, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I'll try not to take too much time because I know that you've been doing a lot and you have a lot yet to come. I did want to make a few comments about the homework policy, and some of you may know me as a friend, some of you may know me in my capacity as a former member of the infamous or erstwhile Balance Committee at the high school. So really, I basically just wanted to comment about the communication aspect of the homework policy, but since you were talking about the homework over break policy, I thought I would just jump in with a little bit of information about that, and I'll be brief. Sorry if I broke protocol before. I wasn't aware of, exactly how you do things here, and I got a little overexcited, so sorry about that. I tend to do that. Anyway, I just did want to mention, with regard to the homework over breaks policy, I know that you all and Paul and a lot of people have been discussing it, and this is more just by way of information. That section did initially come, perhaps there may have been other things like it in the policies before, but that section that you were looking at did come directly from the high school after the balance committee, homework committee, whatever you want to call it, was charged by the administration of the high school with developing some ways to deal with student stress as a result of homework, academic issues, extracurricular issues. It came directly from that committee, which consisted of parents, students, and teachers, and then it went to the faculty, who all had an opportunity to comment on it. So that's where most of that language came from. I know Roseanne and other people on the board have fine-tuned it, and that's fine. But I just wanted to mention where it came from because I think that's important to remember. The other thing to keep in mind about that is that as you tinker with the language, I mean, sometimes the exact language doesn't always even matter that much. I think it's important it reflects a goal. I'm really heartened to see that you are all dealing with this issue very seriously. There are a lot of aspects to it, as Paul said very wisely, and others did too. We're never going to find solutions that fit for every student, every family, how much rigor they want, don't want, what their capacities are. It's different teaching styles. We don't want to dictate to teachers exactly what to do all the time. But if as a district we feel, the majority of people believe that it is a goal to balance things out, give students downtime, family time, or time to pursue another intellectual interest, more rigor, if they want to, over vacation, I think it's important to enshrine that goal, that philosophy. So I think putting it out there that in some manner, I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do that, but in some manner that over breaks, long breaks, religious holidays, that teachers should be mindful of other obligations and the need for relaxation, or however you want to put it, giving students enough time to complete their long-term assignments. Maybe they want to leave it till the break. They can do that if they know about it ahead of time. But maybe they have they have concerts, they have family vacations, they have regionals, they have plays. I think those are all educational in other ways, and it's very important that we keep that in mind and communicate it. And I probably didn't say that as well as you guys do, but that's the essence of that, which leads me to the main reason I wanted to come up here tonight and talk about communication, and you all have mentioned it as well. In order for these policies that you've spent so much time on and heart and effort to have teeth and to be real for families and educators, they need to be communicated effectively. And I think that perhaps that needs to be enshrined or either worked into the policy or just be the subject of a separate discussion. I looked, as I'm sure many of you have, at policies that are on the websites for different districts around the country. And a lot of what you've put into yours is reflected in other communities' mandates, I shouldn't say mandates, but ideas, goals, etc., and philosophies. So in looking at those, a lot of them do say communication between the families or the community and the educators is really key. So you've all been talking about that tonight. If parents don't know what the goals and philosophies of the district are, they can't as effectively ask for help. Or they may not bring things up at all. They may think, oh, it's just my problem, not everybody's struggling with this, or they may be afraid of how a teacher will react. So they need to know what these policies are that you've spent so much time developing. And I also think teachers really want to know, of course, if the students are struggling, or if there are things that they haven't been thinking about that perhaps they should. I think if parents, families, guardians in the district are more aware of the framework that you're devising and the expectations, then there's going to be more cooperation and trust and improvement for students as a whole. So how can this be accomplished? I'll just try to get to the heart of the matter. In many other districts' policies, they have separate sections for parents, teachers, administrators, students, etc., things that they should be mindful of. So some of the things that they mention that administrators should try to do with regard to communication of the homework policy is communicate that policy to teachers as you all have been mentioning tonight, is very important. Require teachers to communicate that homework policy to students and parents. Monitor the implementation throughout the year to make sure that it's working. Make homework a topic of meetings with parents and students. And include the homework policy. I've culled these points from several different policies, but I thought that would make it easier. Include the homework policy in all teacher, parent, and student handbooks. I'm sure we do some of that already, but I just wanted to mention it. And it was a very good point that a few people brought up, to do it periodically throughout the year, because staff changes, people forget, new issues come up. So I just wanted to make a suggestion, if I could. And again, thank you for hearing me out on this tonight. My recommendation to give your policy teeth and enhance its usefulness would be to develop some kind of plan for publicizing the revised homework policy to the community periodically. And I would be happy to help on that if you need parent volunteers. Publication on the website you mentioned, maybe an article in the Leader, putting it in all the handbooks, perhaps the PTSO mailing at the beginning of the year. It doesn't have to have the whole policy, maybe a link, maybe, hey, this is what we've done and we'd like you to be aware of it. It should be discussed in detail and become available for review perhaps at orientations in the fall. I don't hear too much mention of these at freshman, sophomore, junior parent nights. That would be a great idea. Develop some kind of plan for the administration or faculty. And I'm just to stress, I've been focused on the high school because I've had one student graduate high school and the other is a junior. So I'm really talking about the high school here. Develop a plan for the principal or administration to oversee the implementation, or some way for the faculty to discuss these issues with the administration and students. Ensure that the administration is holding discussions about homework goals, issues, and problems with faculty several times a year or through departmental meetings. So those are just some of my suggestions. Thanks
Great.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roseanne?
Thank you, Lori. I know this is dear to your heart.
Yes.
And in this new revision of the policy, there are places that indicate where supervisors or department meetings and grade level teams are talking about homework periodically throughout the year. So it is in the regs.
Moving on, I would ask the board to consider policy motion number 2 to affirm the superintendent's decision on HIV incident 14 HSO1 for the reasons set forth therein. Can I have a second?
Second.
Dana?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kersted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olin?
Yes.
Do you know what date this was discussed?
Last board meeting.
No, I have to abstain.
All right. Anything else, Gretchen?
No, we do have a policy committee coming up on
The 18th.
the 18th. See you there.
Thank you. Curriculum, instruction, and programs, Roseanne.
I'd like to ask the board to approve items 1 and 2. 1 is the corrective action plan for consolidated monitoring report, which we did discuss briefly last meeting, and the second are second reading of the following revised language arts curricula, intermediate school. What? Intermediate school language arts, we did not review that, and I'm just noticing that now. What are we? Oh, because of those addendums we did?
Yes.
Right, sorry, intermediate, I had a little scare there, language arts, grades 6, 7, and 8, and then high school language arts, English 1, English 1, 2, 3, 4, English honors 2, 3, language and composition AP, and literature and composition AP. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lucy. So before we vote, Dr. Dolan, did you want to say anything about the corrective action plan?
I actually think Dana Sullivan's going to do that this evening.
So in August, as you know, the state was here for a 3-day review of program and the finances for all of our federal programs. So those federal programs included Title I, IDEA Basic and Preschool, Title IIA, Title III, Title III Immigrant, and Race to the Top. So it was a total of about $2 million in grant funds that they reviewed. You have in your agendas the detailed corrective action plan, but just to give you by program some of the general corrective action that was necessary from the results of the audit. So for Title I, the major revisions there were document revisions. They were looking for changes to the student eligibility document, so that's a document that shows what multiple measures were used to determine a child's eligibility for the program. So those letters are in the process of being revised. Letters that are sent to parents notifying them about the measures that are used and also the exit criteria, so those are also being revised. Timesheets that are used by staff that indicate the amount of time that they spent working in programs that were federally funded. And also some policy revisions are needed. We do have a district level policy, but we need policies that specifically speak about Title I schools. So they're going to be updated in the next few months. They're looking for some updates to our webpage to include some additional information for parents in there, and also these policies, when they do get revised, need to be added to the website. And then they're looking for some changes to the application process itself. Information about low-income students that live in Westfield but attend non-public schools needs to be included in the application going forward. So all of those revisions would be put in place. Title II is funding that's primarily used for professional development activities. And in this district for the last couple of years, it's been used mostly for the literacy program. And they're looking for some more information about contracts for the professional development activities that took place in the district. For IDEA, and this is both preschool and basic, they were looking for some revisions to contracts with outside providers and also with Union County Educational Services Commission for services that they provide to special ed students. They were looking for revisions to service plans, which are similar to IEPs, but they're for non-public students, so they're for Westfield students that attend non-public schools, and they wanted some changes in those service plans. They looked for some revision to budget account codes to be more specific with our coding, and those changes have already been implemented. And some required training for our child study team members to ensure compliance with parental notifications and various aspects of IEP requirements and parental notification regarding those requirements. Race to the Top funding, they were looking for a revised program code, that's just an account code revision. And then administratively, they were looking for a review of purchase order procedures for services that are rendered to ensure that purchase orders are issued prior to those services being rendered. So many of these corrective actions have already been put into place in the district. Some of them, we believe, were in place to begin with, and some of these actions, we really didn't see where the state actually noted some of these instances, but we'll make sure that as we go forward, if we see any of those problems that they indicated, we'll make sure that they are revised going forward.
I just have a logistical question. So this is a document, the entire document was created by the state, or they give us the corrective action and then the district comes up with
They give us the finding, and then the district comes up with the action and
the method of implementation?
Yeah, they have suggestions for it, for the corrective action, but we tailor it to our district.
Because a lot of these call for training of our child study team that I have to imagine is already taking place. And I would assume, I would hope.
You're absolutely right.
And that was one of the areas where a lot of the instances we don't have the same findings they have. We didn't even know where they, and right, they didn't indicate to us where they found those, where they noted the issues.
And it seemed to be maybe the mechanism we use, they want a different form to be used in the file to make sure it's all done. Although we make sure it's all done, they might want us to have a different way of listing that or something, so.
Put it on a blue piece of paper.
Right, like
instead of
sharing
yellow.
the special education rules and, I mean.
That's not a new
If I
concept.
get offered that book
Right.
one more time?
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
my point. Okay,
Well,
so
that-
it's
I'm
just
so
a
glad
matter
to
of
hear
us
that.
documenting that we're doing it.
Yes.
Right, okay.
I'm so glad to hear that because that was our take as well. So it's good to hear that from a parent. And that was our take as well, but we'll just make sure, we know we have to do it, and we'll do it. And you're right, whether it is a blue list or a list in a different order, we'll be very glad to do that to make the review easier.
Or they had to find 15 problems with every district.
And as noted earlier, coincidentally, we had the auditors here this evening, and as Bob noted, that a large part of what they look at are the federal programs, because they're required to look at that. So from a financial review standpoint, they did spend quite a lot of time reviewing these programs, and there were no financial issues with that. And the state also did not, if they have any major issues, they usually will assess a financial penalty. So although they found a number of little things, there was nothing that rose to that level.
Comments?
Yeah. How does this, we got something in our places tonight?
There were a couple of typos in the document that was in the agenda, so there's, I mean, literally like changing, it said will must or something, there was a typo, I think,
Oh, yeah.
Rich and Roseanne pointed out. Nothing substantial.
All right.
Any other comments or questions? Dana? You need to vote?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Beegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirstead?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg?
Yes.
That is all.
Finance, Mark.
I'd like the board to consider finance items numbers 1 through 12. Number 7 was amended on the addendum at your desk, and also we added number 12 on the addendum document as well. Any questions? No, second, right, thank you. Gretchen? Any questions?
Yeah, could somebody explain 12 in, I guess, whatever terms can be explained? Since it's under finance, was there any money exchanging?
There was no money involved,
Okay.
no. Right, there was no money involved.
Anything else? Dana, please?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Beegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirstead?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg?
Yes.
Anything else, Mark?
No, sir.
Legislation, Ann.
No report.
Thank you. Technology, I know Mitch is not here. Did he need a report?
We did not.
All right. That brings us to, I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record and move to any unfinished business. Any new business? Liaison reports.
I was at the Roosevelt PTSO meeting today, and I have, nothing to report, but I was there.
Outstanding.
Duly noted.
Well done.
It happens.
I would then recognize the public for questions or comments on any topic.
Yeah, thank you. Lori reminded me, we were at the, yes, that's big, thank you. At the PTC President's meeting, we talked about the calendar. And for those of you who weren't able to be here, when we met right before the Thanksgiving holiday, we had gotten some feedback as a full board that y'all should have been aware of, that there were certain members of the community who were concerned that that the original calendar had, spring break was scheduled leading into Passover. And they were saying that it can sometimes be difficult to observe the holiday while your children are in school. I hope I'm capturing that right. And then that there was also, right, because of food restrictions. And then there was also some feedback that we had received from the high school that they didn't like the idea of having graduation on a Monday because it required rental of chairs that we need for graduation ceremony over a longer period of time because we'd have to set them up on Friday. So then we'd be renting them over the full weekend. So if we had graduation on Tuesday, that it would be better, less expensive. And so when the board met, we agreed to change we voted to change the spring break week into the week following Passover. So the Passover's on Friday, so it would now lead into Easter and then also be Easter Monday. It's hard to do this without it in front of me, so we talked about that.
It's Good Friday.
Oh, thank you.
And then Easter and Passover
Right.
week will
Okay.
have break.
So we talked about the PTC meeting, and we received some feedback from Jewish families that actually they like being in school during Passover, because if we make spring break the same week as Passover, then they can't go away. Because
Or it's more difficult
or it's
to
more
eat
difficult
while
to
you're
go away,
away.
right, and keep Passover. So I think long story short is, I suggested that they share those thoughts with us. I think we've actually received a couple of emails to that effect that have been sent to the full board. I just wanted to share that sentiment with you. We can't, clearly there's opposing views, and we're not going to make everybody happy. But it is certainly something to keep in mind when we build the calendar in the future, I suspect.
Right, and the
Is that-
second reading will be, I believe, on January 7th. Yes. So if anybody, other parents have suggestions on any part of the calendar, they can certainly email the full board.
Let's have 2 weeks off.
But yeah, I mean, keep the comments coming, it's certainly.
I know some people wanted to
Right,
move
with no
Passover.
homework. Yeah, there you go. I think Ginny is.
I do. So I really didn't get all that information out of the minutes of the meeting. Oh, approved for first, a revised calendar. In fact, a revised calendar wasn't presented in any notes for members of the board who weren't at that meeting. Did I miss something?
Yeah, I don't think I did send that out specifically to anyone.
So, I'm sorry, so the minutes reflect that we revised the calendar, but you're saying the actual calendar wasn't circulated, is that?
Well, I'm trying to grasp everything I missed, and apparently I missed that. So
Sure, we can send that too.
So where does the policy committee now stand? Because you have an original policy with a first reading, you have a revised policy for a first reading approval, and now you have people on the opposite sides of both of those.
Well, it's certainly something that the policy committee is going to talk about when we meet next week. I don't know that the recommendation, that there may not be a recommendation coming from the policy committee, but there may be. So we'll have a conversation about it at our meeting next week. But right now, we have a proposed calendar on the table to the full board.
Right. We did, just for people who are watching this also, we did include the revised calendar in the last synopsis of the last board meeting. It's also on the website for people. But we can certainly send it home in packets as well. But anyone who's watching, please make sure that you do take a look and see if you have any questions or suggestions.
Anyone else? No. All right. And then recognize the public for questions or comments on any topic. All right. Seeing no one come to the podium, I would ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, personnel pending or anticipated litigation, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations. And be it further resolved that any discussions held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussions will be made public as soon as practicable. Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? We are adjourned.